Hello everyone, today I have a roundup video for my Birth by Sleep explorations, and what this is, rather than stream content edited down like those explorations are, it's just me doing a voiceover, and I'm going to talk about my favourite areas in Birth by Sleep. So it's a little amendment, it's a little bonus video at the end, for people who don't really like the stream stuff, or just want to see me talk a little bit more in depth about certain areas and why I like them. This is the video for that. So let's start off at the beginning, but really at the end with Land of Departure. When you come back here, there's only 2 rooms you can revisit and it's all destroyed. And I think I've mentioned before how much I love this eerie atmosphere. But what I really like is the mountain path especially. It's got a cozy feel, the mountain path. It's this little training area. You've got training things you can hit and get little health orbs out, not very much. But it feels cozy, it feels quite relaxed, and you can imagine all the times Aqua, Terra and Venta spent here training and sparring and joking and just being friends. But we see it at the end of the game, after Xehanort destroyed the place, in darkness and completely silent, no music, it's very eerie. But it still retains some of that cozy feel, that nighttime feel. And I really like the juxtaposition of these 2 aspects, the coziness, but also the eerie feeling you get coming here. It feels a little bit wrong, but it's still kind of nice to be in despite everything. I also like, I suppose, just the general design of this. There's not much to it, but it's a bit vertical, and I like that it's on the cliff edge, which I think is quite cool, although it seems a little dangerous. But yeah, I do quite like this particular section of the Land of Departure. Oh yeah, and a fun little fact I found out from the wiki that apparently in the original release of Birth by Sleep in Japan, the Land of Departure actually is inaccessible after it's destroyed, which is a problem if you haven't got the chest there because you can't complete the journal. So they fixed this in all the subsequent versions, and of course in Funnel Mix we have the extra boss fight there, though I don't really care to do that boss fight, but yeah, I thought I'd mention that anyway. Now let's move on to one of the earliest worlds. Let's go for Dwarf Woodlands. The best place to be here, I would say, is the castle, the Queen's Castle. Namely, we have the insides, the underground waterway, and the vault. This is a double whammy of rooms that are fairly interesting. The underground waterway, you have a little mechanic where you have to hit these, I don't really know what to call them, but you have to hit these mechanisms that open gates, and you've got a timer to get through them, and you can get a couple of chests if you get through the latter one in time. So that's something. It's a little challenge there. It's not too hard, but it's there. And also it's just a slightly non-linear design in regards to how it's connected. I quite like the waterway. And then the vault after that as well, which is an open room. And it has another mechanic, and this uses magic, and I always do like it when you can use magic on the environment in games. Very KH1 thing for Kingdom Hearts. So it's pretty cool, you can use fire on these furnace things, and then it will shoot water up and you can jump on that and you'll be shot up to an upper section and get rewarded with a chest. This is the kind of design that lets you actually explore the environment even a little bit, and just gives you something to do. It creates content that's not just walk to a room to activate boss or enemy mob fight or cutscene. It's actually using the area for content. And somewhere else a bit like that is the Turo prison block in deep space, which is a set of prison cells. Doesn't seem that interesting, but you can jump on these platforms, there's even moving platforms, and open up the prison cell doors, and there's chests inside some of them. It's simple enough, and we've all seen moving platforms and static platforms and combinations of the 2 in games before. There's nothing revolutionary here. But for a series that kind of abandoned a lot of platforming after the first game, this was quite cool to see, and it was just nice, it was just fun to go through here and just jump between the platforms. And this footage you can see I'm doing it with Terra from the exploration, which was nice because he doesn't have glide. So I had to actually air slide and think a little bit about how I'm approaching it. Engages the brain, even a little bit, and that's always nice to see. Jumping back to nearer the start of the game, we have the Mouseholes in Cinderella's house. I do think Cinderella's house is actually the more interesting part of Castle of Dreams, rather than the actual Castle of Dreams. Mainly because of this connection between the Mouseholes, the wardrobe room, and Cinderella's room. The Mouseholes have multiple entrances and exits. They have platforming, they have a little bit of interactivity that actually aids with the platforming, and the fact that it's quite small and enclosed. All these aspects do make you think, this is a rather KH1-ish room, isn't it? It's small, platforming, interactivity, and it has multiple connections that actually lead to the same room. It's just like a cage 1 room. This could fit right into cage 1 very easily. Of course, that's why I like it quite a lot. So yeah, I do like the Mouseholes. I like how they connect, and even when I did the exploration, I actually got a little bit confused. I was like, wait, where's the one I'm looking for? The one that leads to the top of the wardrobe room that gets you an extra chest? Actually, I had to like think a bit there. And even if Jack is a rather annoying character, I gotta appreciate these Mouseholes for existing, because it's a bit better than just walking through a door from one room to another. There's one nice thing that the miniaturization actually allows us, is this extra bit of level design they managed to put in here because of it. Alright, time to head over to Radiant Garden now. There's 2 rooms here that I quite like, so this is actually 2 on the list. The first one is the Fountain Court. I like this because, one, it has some platforming, it has some verticality, but also I just like the look of the area. The purple and the blues, the water, it looks really beautiful. I appreciate seeing the backside of the castle, which we can't see all that often, and feeling right down below, like right at the base of the castle, and just getting the sense of the scale of everything. But just seeing how a lot of the world works, this is something I'll get into with the second room as well. In fact, we may as well just jump to that because it's a similar point. The other one I quite like is right at the opposite end of the world, the Purification Facility that only Terra can go into, where you fight Braig in that boss fight. It's very simple, there's not much to this room, it's a boss arena. What I really like is the huge sense of scale. It's so vast. You just see all these pipes in a ring, and you can imagine this ring goes all the way around the town, and they get water from outside and they pump it in and they purify it, I guess. It's called Purification Facility, so I'm assuming some purifying process goes on here. And that's a really cool bit of world building, just to imagine, okay, so something happens here with Radiant Garden, where they purify the water from the outside to go to the town and people can drink it. And I just think it's quite cool to see how a world works like that, and to actually think, oh, okay, so this is how this works, and we get a feel for how it's all built. Also, just because it's a huge room, I do quite like these vast spaces that are quite awe-inspiring. So yeah, the Purification Facility and also the Fountain Court, just for being probably the most beautiful place, both very water-themed. I like water-themed Radiant Garden, Hollow Bastion, that's how it should be in my opinion. And yeah, well, those 2 rooms, I just enjoy them a lot, and I think they're the coolest rooms in that world. But it's a world full of very cool rooms. I mean, the gardens themselves, most of it's quite nice to be in. As I said in the explorations, Radiant Garden is my favourite BBS world, so this is no surprise. Somewhere else that has a lot of water is Neverland, of course, and this world has quite a nice design. Overall, the entire picture, it's probably one of the best in the game. I would say it's my second favourite world in the game. A bit like Radiant Garden, it has quite a nice connective design, even though it's not all like really complicated or layered, but you can go around a sort of loop with it, like the Mermaid Lagoon, which is actually what I'm about to talk about, but the gully, which leads to a couple of different places, and the Rainbow Falls, which you can go around in a loop and get back to the gully. I really like that, but as I've mentioned, I think my favourite area is the Mermaid Lagoon, because it kind of just has a lot to it. It's simple in design, it's pretty simple, but just has a lot of little things, a lot of little nice level design things in it. So it has water, which means you can swim, another method of traversal, I do appreciate that. But in addition to that, you can only swim back up to the land at certain points. So kind of like the Mystical House in KH1 with that platforming. If you fail, you have to swim back again. It's not as platforming heavy as the Mystical House, but it's still something. There's also the small cave off to the side with a chest in it. That's cool. There's the higher section that you can get to from the adjacent room. If you go through there, you get to a higher section, again with a chest. And there's also the element of peacefulness. It's a very nice place to be in. It's quite pretty. Well, it would be peaceful if not for Hook's ship shooting at you. I mean, yeah, that's a slight issue there. But I suppose one positive thing about the ship shooting you is that it just adds another dimension to this place. You've got to avoid that, right? So it adds a bit of danger. But yeah, that's the Mermaid Lagoon. Now, let's go to the Enchanted Dominion. Maleficent's castle certainly has some interesting areas. I'd say the main outside is quite a nice open section. Then you have the hall sort of area with all the walls that come up, and you have to go through the teleports. Though this isn't actually particularly special, I would say. It's kind of just like a linear path made by these walls coming up. I suppose it's a bit like End of the World's final dimension, just not quite as cool. And one of the teleports can change and lead you to a different bit with the chest. Yeah, whatever, that's great. But my favourite part of this world, and one of my favourite areas in the game, is actually much simpler, and it's the bit just before Maleficent's castle. The room known as Forbidden Mountain, the path that leads up to the castle. It's extremely simple, it's not great in level design or anything like that. I just like it because visually it's stunning. Taken from the movie, but they've really executed it very well. Looking up to the castle, just high up, just stacked up on this little pillar, and the long winding path going up to it. And I do like that you can actually move up a lot of this path. Instead of just instantly going from like the start of the path and then, yeah, next room, there you go. No, they do let you actually wander up a lot of this, which is nice. But it's just very foreboding, very sinister. I love the look of her castle. I like the vastness. Again, we're on a kind of cliff edge and we see the vastness below. I guess it's a thing for me. I kind of like that sort of area. I like seeing that sort of area. And, well, I could give spoilers for a game, but this would be an unfortunate place to end up after something happens. Let's mention something I think people would probably expect me to talk about, and that's the underside of Disney Town. While I may not care too much for the top side of Disney Town, it's mostly just a font for mini-games. What I do like is the optional areas underground, because, whoa, get this, we've got platforming. Oh, wow, okay, that's already something. Moving platforms, you activate it with magic, with thunder, or some sort of thunder attack. Whoa, okay, this is getting kind of crazy now. This is some proper design. You have to go across these platforms, and there's a chest one way, and the other way will lead to another area, and I'll bundle these two together into one little package, because I think they go together pretty well. I couldn't really choose between the two. You have Pete's Rec Room. The first area was the Gizmo Gallery, and that leads into the Rec Room, recreational room. And this is just a big pinball room, essentially. I don't think the pinball minigame is particularly great. But it's not really a minigame because it is just moving about. It just has a 2D perspective to it. It's whatever, right? But I just like the opportunities for actually getting chests here. There's a section off to the side on the left. They can get a chest. There's one higher up on the right, they can get a chest. And there's a chest in the middle that you get by getting to the top, right? You have to get to the top of the pinball and unlocks the middle. And you get a chest in there as well. It's like, whoa! You actually have to work for some chests here. You can miss them. Like, I got the one on the left, but when I came back for the exploration, I actually got the other two. So, I really like that. I like it's an optional just bit of level design for you to play around with, right? And while it might not be the most functional pinball ever, it's okay because it's a very small part of a bigger game, right? So yeah, I gotta say, those two rooms combined already, that's quite cool, just an optional thing. You don't even have to do it, right? But what's even better is that it leads to another area. It leads back to the raceway, and it's actually at the top of the raceway on one of the buildings, which has a chest, which you can then glide over if you have glide. And I think you get, I can't remember if you get super glide there, but you glide over and get another chest as Ventus. I mean, that's just a really random level design sequence going on. Platforming section, activated by magic, leads to a pinball platforming thing with multiple chests, and that leads up to another part of a room that you usually wouldn't be able to get up there normally. You'd have to go through this to get there, which leads to a glide section to get another chest. There's just a lot for a mini-game world, right? I kind of wish BBS had more of this. They kind of put this here in Disney Town, and it's not really like there's much more optional rooms than other worlds, so it's very random, but I've always liked it ever since I played the game. And finally we have a room from the Keyblade Graveyard, which is rather like the Forbidden Mountain of the Enchanted Dominion, in that it just looks very cool. It's also on a cliff edge like that one was. This is the Seat of War. Now, can I just say the name is extremely cool, Seat of War. Like, that's one of the coolest names of any room in Kingdom Hearts, I think. The Keyblade Graveyard always does have pretty cool names, both in this game and Cage 3, but I think this might be my favourite, Seat of War. That's just great. And the standout feature here is just looking at the scarred landscape, the destruction of the Keyblade War. You can see that these two rock formations clearly have had something blast through them. There's a big old chunk taken out of this one. Something's kind of come down here, blasted through one, kind of cut the next one as well, and it's obviously made this big crater in the ground. You can see that. I love the way the crater looks as well. It's very edged. It doesn't look particularly natural for how a crater would look, so it makes me think this is some big magic or something like that, right? It looks unnatural, which is perfect, because this is a, you know, a war. It's not a natural formation. So yeah, that's nice. And then also you've got a lucky emblem down there. But then if you look the other way, you can just see absolute desolation, right? You just see how huge the Badlands are. And I think that's a really nice view. It's the perfect introduction to the world. It's not exactly the introduction because you do come here before this. You go to the Badlands bit, you know, from Cage 2. You have some cutscenes there, especially with Xehanort and Terra. But in terms of introduction to the world proper at the end of the game, coming here first is just like, damn, look at this place. Wow, that just really makes you think about the ancient mystery, or what used to be ancient mystery, maybe not so much anymore, but still, I think for what it is in BBS, it's such a cool room. Level design wise, it's very basic and generic and not interesting, but sometimes just the visuals is enough to really make a room stand out, you know. But that's it from me. That's just 10 areas in BBS that I wanted to talk about because I thought they were pretty cool and just wanted to go into a little bit more detail about them and specifically highlight them rather than just have them be bits of a 30-minute long exploration video. So I hope this was a nice little recap, or maybe if you don't want to watch the exploration stuff, this is just a nice shorter kind of content for you to see. And of course, let me know what your favorite areas in Birth by Sleep are. And that's all from me. Thanks for watching. See you next time.